When you hear Myanmar, maybe you picture golden temples, ancient pagodas, or the winding Irrawaddy River. But here's something most people don't know. This country is also home to some of the strangest and rarest birds on Earth. From jewel-toned pheasants shimmering in the jungle, to storks taller than a child stalking the riverbanks, to vultures with crimson heads that look like they belong in a fantasy novel. Myanmar's skies are full of surprises. Some of these birds are sacred, some are near mythical, known only from a handful of sightings, and some are just plain weird. You'll see what I mean. In this video, we're counting down 15 species that make Myanmar a dream destination for birdwatchers and nature lovers. We'll meet dancers, hunters, singers, and survivors, each with a story that's as unforgettable as its feathers. And trust me, the final bird on this list has a courtship display so dramatic, it'll leave you stunned. So stick around, hit that like, tap subscribe, and tell me in the comments, which bird of Myanmar do you think will shock you the most? If we're kicking off a journey through Myanmar's birds, we might as well start with pure royalty. Meet the Green Peafowl, a bird so dazzling it makes the famous Indian peacock look almost understated. At first glance, it's jaw-dropping, shimmering emerald green plumage, bronze wings, and a tail train that can stretch over 5 feet. When the male fans it out, hundreds of iridescent eyes shimmer in the sunlight, turning the forest floor into a living fireworks show. Here's the hook. Unlike the Indian peafowl you might see in zoos or gardens, the green peafowl is wilder, rarer, and far more elusive. It roams deep forests, grasslands, and river valleys across Myanmar and Southeast Asia, always keeping a cautious distance from humans. And here's the twist. While stunning, this bird is also a symbol of fragility. Once widespread, green peafowl populations have plummeted due to hunting, habitat loss, and the demand for their feathers. In some areas, they've vanished completely. Today, Myanmar is one of the last strongholds where they still survive in the wild. Fun fact, in Burmese culture, the green peafowl is a powerful national symbol. Its image appears in art, folklore, and even as a political emblem. For centuries, it's been celebrated as a bird of pride, beauty, and resilience. But seeing one in person, that's something else entirely. Imagine trekking through a sunlit clearing when suddenly a metallic green flash bursts from the underbrush, tail shimmering like liquid emerald. It's a moment that stops you in your tracks. For birders, spotting the green peafowl in Myanmar is a once-in-a-lifetime highlight, a reminder of both nature's beauty and its vulnerability. So here's my question for you. If you could witness just one peafowl display in the wild, would you pick the green peafowl of Myanmar or the classic Indian peacock? Tell me in the comments. I want to see which one wins your vote. And next, we'll stay in the world of pheasants but change the mood completely, because the next bird doesn't dazzle with fireworks, it shimmers with subtle pearls of light in the shadows. After the explosive emerald fireworks of the green peafowl, we slip quietly into the shadows of Myanmar's forests, where beauty hides in subtlety. Meet the gray Peacock-Pheasant, a bird that doesn't scream for attention, but rewards those who look closer. At first glance, it seems modest, soft gray plumage mottled with delicate patterns, blending perfectly with the undergrowth. But then the light shifts, and suddenly, wow! Each feather glimmers with tiny iridescent eye spots in greens, purples, and blues, like pearls scattered across velvet. Here's the hook. The gray Peacock-Pheasant is a master of illusion. When threatened, it fans its tail, flashing dozens of glowing eye spots in a hypnotic display that makes predators think twice. It's not size or strength that saves this bird, it's pure spectacle. And here's the twist. Unlike its flamboyant cousin, the green peafowl, this species is surprisingly shy. It spends much of its time skulking in dense forest, foraging for seeds, fruits, and insects. Many locals can live near them for years without ever catching more than a fleeting glimpse. Fun fact, this bird is Myanmar's national bird, chosen not for flashiness, but for its quiet elegance and cultural significance. In folklore, it's seen as a symbol of grace, humility, and hidden strength. Imagine walking through a misty forest trail at dawn and hearing its low, resonant calls. Then just as you think it's gone, a sudden shimmer of jewel-like spots flickers through the shadows. It's not a show for everyone. It's a secret performance for those patient enough to wait. For birders, the gray peacock-pheasant is the kind of treasure that makes you slow down, listen harder, and appreciate the details. So here's my question for you. When it comes to beauty, do you prefer the bold and flashy, like the green peafowl, or the quiet, hidden shimmer of the gray peacock-pheasant? Tell me in the comments. I want to see which side you're on. And next, we'll swap subtle elegance for a flash of fire, because the next bird wears crimson feathers and announces itself with a call you'll never forget. From the soft shimmer of the gray peacock-pheasant, we now move to a bird that doesn't hide at all. It blazes like a spark in the forest. Meet the Ruddy Kingfisher, a flame-colored hunter that proves size doesn't matter when it comes to impact. At first glance, it's unforgettable. Deep chestnut red plumage, fiery orange bill, and glowing red feet. In a world of greens and browns, this bird looks like a glowing ember against the trees. Here's the hook. While many kingfishers stick to rivers and lakes, the Ruddy Kingfisher loves dense forests. It's more often heard than seen, delivering a loud piping call that echoes through the canopy like a flute. Spotting one feels like chasing a ghost made of fire. And here's the twist. Despite its small size, barely 10 inches long, this bird is a fierce predator. Its menu includes fish, yes, but also frogs, crabs, insects, and even small reptiles. When it strikes from a perch, it's lightning fast, slamming prey against a branch before swallowing it whole. Fun fact, the Ruddy Kingfisher is migratory. It breeds in places like Myanmar, Japan, and Korea, then winters in Southeast Asia. That means this little ember is also a globetrotter, traveling thousands of miles each year. In Myanmar's lowland forests, locals sometimes follow its eerie whistle, believing it's a messenger spirit. And honestly, when you see that flash of red dart across a shadowy riverbank, it's easy to believe the legends. For birders, catching even a brief glimpse is a prize. It's not a bird that poses or waits. It's a streak of fire, gone before your eyes can adjust. So here's my question for you. If you could choose one kingfisher to spot in the wild, would you go for the classic blue and orange common kingfisher or this blazing Ruddy Kingfisher? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm curious which color team you're on. And next, we'll cool things down with a touch of sapphire, because our next bird wears sky blue feathers and sings sweet notes that echo through Myanmar's forests. After the fiery flash of the Ruddy Kingfisher, let's cool things down with a bird dressed in the calmest shades of blue. Meet the Tickell's blue flycatcher, a little jewel of Myanmar's forest that proves sometimes beauty hides in small packages. At first glance, it's striking. Males glow with deep cobalt blue upper parts, a warm orange throat and chest, and a snowy white belly. Perched on a low branch, it looks like a painting come to life. Sky, sunset, and clouds all rolled into one tiny bird. Here's the hook. While it may look delicate, this flycatcher is a fearless hunter. It darts out from a perch with lightning speed, snatching flies, moths, and beetles in midair, before snapping back to its branch like a slingshot. It's basically the ninja of the bird world. And here's the twist. Tickell's blue flycatchers are surprisingly adaptable. They thrive not just in dense forests, but also in gardens, parks, and even near villages. You don't need to trek deep into the jungle to meet this feathered jewel. It might be singing right outside a temple courtyard. Fun fact, despite being small, barely 5 inches long, they're loud singers. Their cheerful, melodious whistles can brighten even the heaviest monsoon morning. Locals sometimes say their song is a sign of good luck, announcing clear skies after storms. In Myanmar, they're often spotted flitting low in the understory, tail flicking as they launch into their acrobatic hunts. Watching one is like seeing a spark of blue energy bouncing through the shadows. For birders, the thrill comes not just from their colors, but from their personality. Bold, restless, and endlessly entertaining. So here's my question for you. If you had a garden full of birds, would you rather hear the bold calls of a parrot or the sweet, gentle song of a Tickell's blue flycatcher? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know which music you'd choose. And next, we'll trade sapphire elegance for earthy charm, because the next bird wears a chestnut cap and turns marsh grass into its stage. From the sapphire shimmer of the Tickell's blue flycatcher, we now step into the tall grasses and marsh edges of Myanmar, where a little bird with a big personality makes itself heard. Meet the Chestnut-capped Babbler, a bird that might be small, but never goes unnoticed. At first glance, it's charming, a rich chestnut cap, grayish body, white throat, and a tail that flicks nervously as it hops through reeds. It looks humble, but its voice? That's where the magic is. Here's the hook. Chestnut-capped babblers deliver a sharp, rhythmic call that sounds like someone tapping two stones together. Tick, tick, tick. In fact, if you walk through a marsh in Myanmar, you might think someone's following you with castanets until you realize it's just this bird announcing its presence. And here's the twist. These babblers are team players. They often live in family groups, and while one sings loudly from the top of a reed, others forage quietly below. It's almost like they've got a lookout on duty while the rest of the crew raids the pantry. Fun fact, babblers are named for their noisy, constant chatter. In many parts of Asia, locals nickname them bamboo birds because their chorus echoes through thickets of bamboo like a lively conversation. In Myanmar, spotting one isn't always easy. They're masters of slipping through grass unseen, giving you only a teasing flick of a tail or flash of chestnut before disappearing again. But once you hear that rhythmic tick, 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 you know they're close. For birders, the Chestnut-capped Babbler isn't about dazzling colors, it's about character. It brings life to quiet marshes, filling the silence with rhythm and energy. So here's my question for you. If you could wake up to one kind of bird sound, would you pick the musical song of a flycatcher or the quirky tick, tick, tick percussion of the Chestnut-capped Babbler? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm curious what your morning soundtrack would be. And next, we'll meet another talkative character, this one bigger, bolder, and found only in Myanmar. From the Chestnut-capped Babbler's marshland rhythms, we move into villages and temple courtyards. Because the next bird doesn't hide deep in the forest, it lives right alongside people. Meet the white-throated babbler, a bird you won't find anywhere else in the world except Myanmar. At first glance, it's a bit scruffy. Pale brown body, streaked back, long tail, and of course that clean white throat patch that gives it its name. Not flashy, not fancy, but here's the hook. This is Myanmar's very own endemic bird, a species found nowhere else on Earth. If you hear one chattering in a Yangon park or see a group bouncing across a dusty roadside, you're witnessing something truly unique. And here's the twist. These babblers are loud. They travel in noisy flocks, constantly calling back and forth like a family arguing over dinner. Locals often hear their scolding churr notes before they ever see the birds themselves. Fun fact, babblers are cooperative breeders. That means it's not just mom and dad raising the chicks. Older siblings often help feed and guard the nest. It's a real, it takes a village approach, which fits perfectly for a bird that thrives near human communities. For many in Myanmar, the white-throated babbler is as familiar as sparrows or robins in America. But for birdwatchers, it's a prize, because stepping off the plane in Yangon might be your one and only chance to meet it. Watching a gang of them hop through a pagoda garden, tails flicking, voices rising in chorus, is a reminder that even the most ordinary-looking bird can carry an extraordinary story. So here's my question for you. Do you think a bird has to be colorful to be special? Or does uniqueness, like being found only in one country, make it just as amazing? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your take. And next, we'll slip back into the bamboo thickets where another chatterbox waits. But this one has a parrot's beak on a tiny round body. From the noisy white-throated babblers of village gardens, we duck into dense bamboo thickets, where one of Myanmar's strangest little birds hides. Meet the spot-breasted parrotbill, a bird that looks like it was designed from spare parts and then glued together with personality. At first glance, it's almost comical. A chunky head, stubby round body, and a giant yellow bill that looks like it was borrowed from a parrot. Add in soft brown plumage and dark spots across the breast, and you've got a bird that somehow manages to be both goofy and adorable. Here's the hook. That oversized bill isn't just for show. It's a powerful tool for crunching through tough grass seeds, bamboo shoots, and insects hiding in stems. Think of it as the Swiss Army knife of bird beaks, versatile, efficient, and a little bit over the top. And here's the twist. Despite their clumsy look, these birds are incredibly agile. They climb and swing through reeds and bamboo like acrobats, often in small flocks that chatter constantly as they move. It's like watching a troupe of feathered comedians tumble through the grass. Fun fact, parrotbills belong to their own quirky family, separate from true parrots or finches. They're evolutionary oddballs, birds that defy easy classification, which makes spotting them even more exciting for scientists and birders alike. In Myanmar, the spot-breasted parrotbill is often heard before it's seen, its nasal calls squeaking from deep inside a bamboo grove. Patience is key. Wait long enough, and a round, big-billed face will peek out at you with curiosity before darting away. For birders, this species is the definition of weird but wonderful. It may not soar majestically like an eagle or dazzle like a peacock, but it will definitely make you smile. So here's my question for you. If you had to choose, would you rather watch an elegant dancer like the Green Peafowl or a clumsy, cute character like the spot-breasted parrotbill? Drop your answer in the comments. I bet the votes will be split. And next, we'll trade bamboo thickets for open farmland, where a dove with golden eyes coos softly under the Myanmar sun. From the goofy charm of the spot-breasted parrotbill, we head into quieter farmland and villages, where a gentle cooing sound fills the air. Meet the Burmese Collared-dove, a bird that may look ordinary at first, until you notice the details. At first glance, it's pale and soft-looking. Sandy gray body, black half collar around the neck, and a slim tail edged in white. But here's the giveaway. It has a bright yellow ring around its eye, like it's wearing a golden halo. That little touch sets it apart from its more common cousins. Here's the hook. While Eurasian collared doves have spread around the world, you can see them from Europe to the US, this Burmese collared dove is found only in Southeast Asia. It's a reminder that even among common birds, there are local treasures hiding in plain sight. And here's the twist. Despite its peaceful look, this dove is tough. It thrives in open farmland, scrub, and villages, often right alongside people. Where other species avoid human disturbance, the Burmese collared dove has learned to adapt and even flourish. Fun fact, their gentle coo-coo-coo calls aren't just background noise. In some Burmese traditions, doves are seen as symbols of peace, fidelity, and even good fortune. So when one sings from your rooftop, it might be more than just a bird, it could be a blessing. In Myanmar, you'll often see them perched on telephone wires, dust bathing on rural roads, or flying low across rice fields in pairs. They may not grab headlines like cranes or vultures, but they're the kind of bird that makes a place feel alive. For birders, they're a reminder that beauty isn't always rare or flamboyant. Sometimes it's the quiet presence of a dove, glowing with a golden eye ring under the morning sun. So here's my question for you. Do you think ordinary birds deserve as much attention as the rare and flashy ones? Or do you mostly chase the rarities? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know how you see it. And next, we'll leave farmlands behind and step into wetlands, where flocks of white ibises with jet black heads turn rice paddies into a living painting. From the quiet coo of the Burmese collared dove, we move into Myanmar's wetlands and rice paddies, where a far more dramatic figure stalks the shallows. Meet the black-headed ibis, a bird that looks part monk, part undertaker, and all business. At first glance, it's striking. Gleaming white body, long down-curved bill, and that bald, inky black head and neck. When a whole flock is feeding in a flooded field, it looks like a living contrast of black and white scattered across the water. Here's the hook. While many birds prefer fresh fish or seeds, the black-headed ibis is a true opportunist. It probes the mud with that long bill, pulling up frogs, crabs, insects, even carrion when the chance arises. If it fits down the hatch, it's fair game. And here's the twist. Despite their adaptability, these ibises are in trouble. Loss of wetlands, pollution, and hunting have all chipped away at their numbers. In fact, they're now listed as near threatened, which means their future isn't as secure as their confident stride suggests. Fun fact, the ibis has been a symbol of wisdom since ancient times. In Egyptian mythology, the sacred ibis was linked to Thoth, the god of knowledge. So in a way, every time a black-headed ibis tips its bald head in Myanmar's fields, it's carrying a bit of ancient symbolism with it. In Myanmar, you'll often see them flying in V formations across the sky at dusk, their long legs trailing elegantly behind. It's one of those everyday spectacles that feels timeless. Farmers finishing their work, the call to prayer echoing from a village, and ibises winging their way home. For birders, the thrill is in seeing them up close, watching that curved bill sweep methodically through the water like a scythe, efficient, strange, and oddly graceful. So here's my question for you. Would you rather watch a flamboyant peafowl dance or a disciplined ibis quietly cleaning up the wetlands? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see which side you're on. And next, we'll head to the coasts and mangroves, where one of the largest herons on Earth stalks the shallows with patience and power. From the black and white drama of the ibis, we move to the mangroves and river mouths of Myanmar, where a giant stalks the shallows with the patience of a monk and the stealth of a predator. Meet the great-billed heron, one of the largest and most imposing herons in the world. At first glance, it's impossible to miss. Standing nearly 4.5 feet tall with dusky gray plumage, a dagger-like bill, and long legs built for wading deep waters, it looks less like a bird and more like a prehistoric sentinel stationed at the water's edge. Here's the hook. While most herons are masters of patience, the great-billed heron takes it to the extreme. It can stand frozen in place for minutes, sometimes hours, waiting for the perfect strike. Then in a split second, that massive bill snaps down and bam! Fish, crab, or unlucky frog doesn't stand a chance. And here's the twist. Despite its size, this bird is incredibly elusive. It prefers remote coasts, coral reefs, and mangrove forests far from people. Even experienced birders may spend days searching without a single sighting. When one finally takes off, wings broad and slow, it feels like watching an ancient creature rise into the sky. Fun fact, the great-billed heron's wingspan can stretch up to 7 feet, almost as wide as an NBA player is tall. Imagine that shadow passing over you as it glides low across the water. In Myanmar, they're most often found in the south, where mangrove channels twist into the sea. For local fishermen, the sight of a heron standing alone against the tide is as much a part of the seascape as the boats themselves. For birders, spotting one feels like entering another world, a quiet reminder of how wild and untouched some corners of Myanmar still are. So here's my question for you. If you had the chance, would you rather trek deep into forests to see a shy pheasant, or stand on the coast and watch this gray giant hunt in silence? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know where you'd go first. And next, we'll leave the coastline and dive into freshwater swamps, where a duck so rare it's practically a ghost still survives in Myanmar's hidden wetlands. From the towering great-billed heron of the mangroves, we slip inland into Myanmar's hidden wetlands, dark swampy pools beneath dense forest canopies. Here lives a bird so rare and secretive that many locals have never even seen it. Meet the white-winged duck, a ghost of Asia's swamps. At first glance, it looks unusual. A dark brown body spattered with pale flecks, long neck, and a striking patch of white on the wings that flashes only in flight. Perched quietly in the shade, it blends almost perfectly into the shadows until it bursts upward with a loud, wing-slapping flight. Here's the hook. This duck is one of the rarest waterfowl in the world. Listed as endangered, its global population may be fewer than 1,000 individuals. In Myanmar, it survives in remote wetlands, where thick vegetation and murky water hide it from all but the most determined birders. And here's the twist. While most ducks are gregarious, the white-winged duck is a loner. It's usually seen alone or in pairs, quietly dabbling for fish, snails, and aquatic plants under cover of darkness. It's a bird that prefers secrecy over spectacle. Fun fact, when startled, it doesn't quack loudly like a mallard. It gives a deep, booming call that echoes strangely through the swamp, almost like a drumbeat. No wonder many people once thought it was a spirit bird. In Myanmar, conservationists are racing to protect its last refuges. Logging, wetland drainage, and hunting have decimated its range, but forest reserves still hold hope for the species. Spotting one feels less like birdwatching and more like witnessing a legend come alive. For birders, the white-winged duck is a holy grail, rare, mysterious, and unforgettable. So here's my question for you. If you had one chance to see a bird in the wild, would you pick something dazzling like the Green Peafowl? Or something nearly mythical like the white-winged duck? Tell me in the comments. I want to see where your heart lies. And next, we'll stay with water birds but turn up the urgency. Because the next species isn't just rare, it's critically endangered and teetering on the edge of extinction. From the shadowy swamps of the white-winged duck, we now meet a bird that's even closer to vanishing, one of the rarest ducks on Earth. Say hello to the Baer's Pochard, a diving duck so scarce that finding one feels like stumbling across a ghost. At first glance, it's handsome but understated. Males wear a glossy green-black head, chestnut sides, and crisp white belly, while females are more subdued and mottled browns. But don't be fooled. This is no ordinary duck. Here's the hook. Baer's Pochard is critically endangered, with fewer than 1,000 individuals believed to exist worldwide. Once common across Asia, its populations have collapsed due to wetland loss, hunting, and pollution. In some countries, it's already gone. Myanmar is now one of the last places where this species still clings to survival. And here's the twist. Despite being so rare, it's also incredibly elusive. Pochards are diving ducks, spending much of their time underwater searching for aquatic plants and snails. Even if they're present, you might not notice them until they suddenly pop up like feathered submarines. Fun fact, researchers sometimes rely on community reports from fishermen to track the last remaining flocks. Imagine the pressure of knowing that the handful of birds you just saw might represent a significant fraction of the entire species. In Myanmar, spotting a Baer's Pochard is bittersweet, thrilling for the birder, heartbreaking for conservationists. Every sighting is both a celebration and a warning. For bird lovers, this duck is a sobering reminder that beauty doesn't guarantee safety, and that even common-looking birds can quietly slip toward extinction. So here's my question for you. If you had the power to save one species, would you choose a flashy icon like the peafowl, or a humble but vanishing gem like Baer's Pochard? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what kind of conservationist you'd be. And next, we'll leave the wetlands behind and climb higher, where a vulture with a fiery red head patrols the skies, looking like it flew straight out of a myth. From the quiet dives of Baer's Pochard, we now look up, way up, where a dark shape circles against the sun. It's not graceful like a crane, and it's not colorful like a kingfisher, but it plays one of the most vital roles in nature's cycle. Meet the red-headed vulture, a bird as strange as it is essential. At first glance, it's striking in a Gothic kind of way. Black body, broad wings, and a bald crimson head that looks almost painted. In flight, it glides with slow, steady wing beats, like a shadow scanning the earth. Here's the hook. While most people wrinkle their noses at vultures, these birds are lifesavers. The red-headed vulture cleans up carcasses before disease can spread, making it a frontline defender of both ecosystems and public health. And here's the twist. Despite being tough survivors, this species is in deep trouble. Once common across Asia, its populations have crashed by more than 90% in recent decades, mostly due to poisoning and harmful veterinary drugs in livestock carcasses. Now, Myanmar is one of the few places where you might still see one. Fun fact, vultures have stomach acid so strong it can destroy anthrax and rabies. What seems disgusting to us is literally disease prevention for entire communities. In Myanmar, spotting a red-headed vulture is both awe-inspiring and sobering. Its red head glows like a warning light in the sky, reminding us that nature's cleanup crew is vanishing. For birders, seeing one wheel overhead is a mix of thrill and sadness, because every sighting could be among the last. So here's my question for you. If you had to pick, would you rather watch a bird that dazzles with beauty, like a roller, or one that quietly saves lives, like a vulture? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you value more. And next, we'll keep our eyes to the skies, Because Myanmar is also home to one of the rarest herons in the world, a bird so scarce it's considered a holy grail for birdwatchers. From the ominous circles of the red-headed vulture, we now focus on a bird that's almost too rare to believe. Meet the white-bellied heron, a giant of Myanmar's rivers that is also one of the rarest herons on Earth. At first glance, it looks majestic. Slate gray body, gleaming white underparts, and a long dagger bill built for spearing fish. Standing over 4 feet tall, it dominates the riverbanks where it hunts. But the real story here isn't its size, it's its scarcity. Here's the hook. The white-bellied heron is critically endangered. Experts believe there may be fewer than 60 individuals left worldwide. Yes, you heard that right. Fewer than 60. That makes every single bird a treasure beyond measure. And here's the twist. Despite being so massive, this heron is incredibly shy. It avoids villages, hides along remote river valleys, and flushes at the slightest disturbance. For birders, even a fleeting glimpse can feel like winning the lottery. Fun fact, the white-bellied heron has been called the ghost of the river because it seems to appear and vanish without warning, gliding silently along sandbars before melting into the mist. In Myanmar, the few remaining strongholds are in remote forest rivers, where conservationists are racing against time to protect both the bird and its fragile habitat. Seeing one isn't just a tick on a checklist, it's a spiritual experience. For birders, this species is the ultimate holy grail. It's a reminder that some of nature's most extraordinary creatures are also the most vulnerable. So here's my question for you. If you had to choose between saving one legendary giant like the white-bellied heron or protecting a whole flock of smaller but common birds, where would you put your energy? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your conservation philosophy. And next, we'll close our Myanmar journey on a high note, literally. Because the final bird is the tallest flying bird in the world, famous for its graceful dances across rice fields. From the ghostly white-bellied heron, we now end with a bird that doesn't just fly, it dances. Meet the Sarus Crane, the tallest flying bird in the world and one of Myanmar's most breathtaking natural performers. At first glance, it's impossible not to stare. A towering frame up to 6 feet tall, gray body, long pink legs, and a bare red head that glows like a crown. When it strides across a rice paddy, it looks less like a bird and more like royalty on stilts. Here's the hook. Sarus cranes are famous for their courtship dances. Mates leap into the air, bow deeply, and stretch their wings wide while calling in unison. It's synchronized, elegant, and filled with emotion. Almost like a ballet choreographed by nature itself. And here's the twist. These displays aren't just for romance. Pairs often dance year after year to reaffirm their bond, making the Sarus crane a global symbol of loyalty and lifelong partnership. In a world where many species part ways after breeding, these cranes stay devoted. Fun fact, their bugling calls can carry for miles across wetlands, echoing like a trumpet fanfare at dawn. Farmers in Myanmar often pause their work just to listen. It's that moving. But behind the beauty lies concern. Habitat loss and wetland drainage have caused populations to shrink across Asia. Still, in places where they survive, like Myanmar's rice fields and floodplains, they remain symbols of hope. For birders, seeing a pair of Sarus cranes dance in the wild is unforgettable. It's not just about feathers and wings, it's about witnessing a love story written in the air. So here's my question for you. If you could watch only one bird performance in your lifetime, would you choose the peacock's feather fan or the Sarus crane's dance of devotion? Tell me in the comments. I'm dying to see which show you'd buy a ticket for. And with that, our journey through Myanmar's strangest and most spectacular birds comes to a close. But trust me, the skies of Asia still hold plenty of secrets. Hey, before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss another wild adventure. From the dazzling green peafowl and the subtle shimmer of the gray peacock-pheasant, to the eerie whistle of the ruddy kingfisher, the ghostly white-bellied heron, and the breathtaking dance of the Sarus crane, Myanmar's birds are more than just wildlife. They're legends in feathers. Some are guardians of wetlands, some are storytellers of the forest, and some are balancing on the edge of extinction, waiting for us to notice before it's too late. These 15 species remind us why exploring the wild matters, not just to check boxes on a list, but to connect with creatures that carry culture, mystery, and meaning in every call and every flight. So tell me in the comments, which bird of Myanmar shocked you the most? I'd love to know which one stayed with you. And stay tuned, because in the next episode, we're flying to another country where birds aren't just strange, they're downright unbelievable.